Bitcoiners United is back today with HODLTarantula. I cannot believe we managed to make this work because it was a little crazy with your backcountry adventures and everything you're doing. It's quite an amazing story that we're going to get to and just how your days are. Quick intro here. HT is the CEO of Sovereign Hybrid Compute, mining Bitcoin off-grid since 2017. And as a sovereign maximalist, his infrastructure is built for wartime ops, which we can get into. Pretty darn based. He has steadily shared his work and his thoughts online. It's one of the most based and sovereign messages I get to listen to online and on X. And he doesn't just talk about it, though. He is out in the middle of extreme nowhere. It's serious proof of work. It's boots in the dirt, wrench turning, sweaty, dusty, black grease type of proof of work. Instead of a lot of the talking that you'll hear people pontificating about, he is out there building hash rate and compute power with flare gas. This is where markets meet the molecule. So I'm really glad you joined me today. Thanks for being here, HT.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for allowing me to speak and spread signal.
Totally. I am excited to hear the clear signal you provide and also get to know you. A lot of people, they see bits and pieces of your boots on the ground, man in the truck talks, and that's what attracted me to your feed and started listening. Ran into you in Vegas this past spring. You were there just very briefly, but you were making the rounds. And it was like, this is so awesome. I had to have you on the podcast because there's a lot of various kinds of Bitcoiners, and there are people who mine and build stuff and just go do things. You are a little unique, I would just say, because it's, I don't know what to say. It's the most based and sovereign type of work that people get to see when you're turning a wrench or pulling a valve and you hear the pipe shudder and flare gas is burning. You got generators going and mining, rambling, and all kinds of other compute you're building. I guess to start with, describe the kind of day and week you've had just recently.
Well, fighting with compressors and jet pumps in the beginning of the week, just keep sites going. I had ESP go down on another well, and then the producer was having trouble with their own flow. So right out the gate, we're already dealing with energy infrastructure and procurement and delivery. And then after we got that sorted, we're able to keep things going and stay online. Ran into some network issues with a couple containers, and been working on that. R&D and some hash rate. Trying a couple different firmwares out, working on that with a couple of my guys on site. And then I had another site that I got asked to go do an assessment on just to look at it. And assessment looks good for a few things, but it looks rough for a few others. It was way out in the middle of nowhere. It was so far out there that there was zero service. The only thing that we would have had would have been satellite, and the sites were undeveloped, so there's absolutely nothing out there. And
I'll throw up the screen here, something you posted about that. There was a sign along the road, danger, hazardous road, absolutely no oil field traffic beyond this point. If you didn't know it, don't drive on this road. And then you're out in the desert arroyos for hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
It's incredible country. And you've seen so much of the country as well. I would just say you travel a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
You don't know what sites are necessarily going to look like till you get there when you're scoping them out, or when you find a new gas well site, or customers come to you with ideas and want consultation, want to grow or do things, get in on what you're offering. And so you start scoping it out, you get out there. Have you ever been just like, holy shit, this is more than I bargained for?
Not from the perspective of if it's something that I can handle,
Yeah.
as to say, not to say that I haven't felt like I'm biting off more than I can chew. But the thing about that is you're not going to actually know whether or not that you can build there or do it unless you go out there and and make the assessment and try.
Hmm.
So in regards to me surviving in these places, no questions. I understand what I'm getting myself into.
Hmm.
I come prepared into the field, so that's not an issue. But when it comes to building the actual physical infrastructure out there, there have been times where it's just like, man, this is tough. The elements are just unforgiving, and
Oh
you
yeah.
like I've seen -63, -67 degrees Fahrenheit in North Dakota in the winters. You got to run your truck 20 days straight, keep fuel from freezing in the line, just keep adding heat or methanol to it, and then
Hmm.
you turn your truck off, you could die. And
Yeah,
you
don't
got
die.
105 out here in the middle of nowhere. It gets up to 120 in some cases in some of these little microclimates, and if you don't have, you know, adequate, formidable, infrastructure, like a vehicle that is, can handle that and everything else, well, you're not going to make it.
Hmm.
So like check your 60/40, charge cooling on your stuff. You prep your vehicle for heat just like you would for cold and things like that. And so,
Hmm.
personally, I don't have, feel like, there isn't much out there I can't, surmount. But for building infrastructure, it's like I got to get a crew out here and I got to figure out, concrete pads and other things like that and tie downs and augers and all kinds of things just to make the infrastructure work. And so I got to be cognizant of whether or not, these crews are going to want to come out here and deal with this, because just because I'm willing to take it on doesn't mean that the guys that I'm going to have bring out here to build it, it takes a lot. There's
Mm.
strong crews out there that'll do it. They're hard to come by, but and then you got to get the guys that, like, the clients, are they going to want to operate this thing afterwards because it's in such inhospitable, terrain. Uh,
Right.
so you just you go over these pros and cons, the remoteness versus the terrain and everything. You discuss that with the clients. You make an assessment for them, and ask them if they're going to be willing to do what it takes to keep it going after you put it together. And well,
And over
that's
time,
usually where they make that decision. Because some of the places that I build are places that, in the past were owner operator ExxonMobil, BP America, other, large producers that they don't want anything to do with these places no more because they have larger interests elsewhere that pay them. And it's just so remote and so inhospitable that once they've made their nut off it, they're gone. They don't want nothing to do with it. And if guys
mm,
like that, who are willing to just throw money, millions of dollars at things to make it work, and they don't want to stick around because of how inhospitable it is, that tells you something about how tough it is to build infrastructure out there.
yeah, I can imagine even people that are familiar with good hard work may not know quite what it takes with the variety of skills that you're implementing. And over time, with experience, you can get into a project better knowing now what may be involved and kind of brace for that. But you've got to be
Yeah.
quite the Renaissance man. I mean, we're talking construction skills, mechanical skills, HVAC, the tech, electricity, three phase high power stuff you're dealing with. Of
Yep.
course, the gas, all the safety aspects to that, the PPE, working with
Hmm.
crews. You got a new guy on a crew, getting to know and trust them and their capabilities. Do you leave them alone? There's some stakes in there left and right,
Yep.
and you got to know all of that stuff.
Yeah, I wear a lot of hats. So
Yeah.
my brain feels like mush at the end of the day sometimes.
Well, I know we were aiming. Well, this started a few days ago, and day by day we kind of had aimed for yesterday, and it got later and later. I'm like, you know what, dude, don't kill yourself here. This is just my podcast. I'm just glad you made it. Now, where the market meets the molecule, it's a cool concept because Bitcoiners can understand, the thermodynamic energy approach to Bitcoin being energy. Then again,
Hmm.
where does that energy come from? And there's a whole rabbit hole of energy, sourcing energy, sovereign energy. You are, because it's so remote and these places you work in, This is you're meeting the molecule where it's at. There's different oil
Yep.
fields, gas fields in different places. They're all over, well, they're all over the planet, but you're in some remote areas all over the nation.
Yep.
And you want to quickly describe where all generally in America you end up being? Texas for sure.
Well, yeah. Basically, the oil and gas formations is where I end up because gas is so consistent in regards to the wasted energy that, I mean, to deploy it, it's pretty easy if you know what you're doing. All the pieces fit together well, and there's an abundance of it. So it's been my main focus over the last better half of a decade. I've tried a lot of other alternative energy sources, and they don't scale the same or with as much ease. And so that's basically why I chose to, build at the intersection of physics and price markets. It's like you go out here and you capture this energy and then you repurpose it, convert it into electricity, and build digital pipelines, right? So
Right.
where this energy was either underutilized, it could be renewable wind, solar, whatever. Where there's excess electrons and they're not making it to the market, that's where I want to show up, right? And so at that point, it's basically, it's a collision point between physics and price for me, because I got to deal with that out in the field, right? So I don't answer to anything but physics out here. That's it. And so I got to understand, that, apply that, and then now extrapolate what that's costing me to approach, and then take that to, a market that is 24/7, 365, and or one that I build for myself with clients who SHC and LPC. And then we have, like I said, Bitcoin mining, which is 24/7 market. That being the case, we have this price point that we can get for this energy, and it just makes too much sense for me to really want to go any other direction, especially when I consider the benefits that come with taking this wasted energy. A lot of times there's an environmental impact that can be had by this, that whether people want to admit it or not, it quite practically makes some of these operations carbon neutral at best,
Right.
And so that, along with, creating something from nothing in a sovereign way that gives people, their dignity back in regards to being able to protect themselves through space and time in regards to their wealth, well, that's a mission that I'm for, right?
Yeah. And the whole concept about that sequestered energy, not letting it go to waste, and converting it to the best, hardest asset you could do it directly at the source wherever you can, and extremely decentralized. That bloodstream of the earth that gives us this energy, it's a force of nature of its own as well. So you can have a sense of what's at a site, but there might be a new well, or a well that's been going for a while, and its output can change over time. Maybe they tap in something new. You kind of have to be flexible and dynamic in terms of responding to a site's shift over time. Perhaps you might have to,
Correct.
unplug from one, plug into another, scale up, scale down, but
Yes,
you're being flexible.
that's correct. The most successful sites built on raw wellhead gas out in the oil field are nimble. So your gas well is in a constant state of decline, and so you're not going to be able to scale that, honestly. Like, anybody tells you otherwise is a liar, unless they're poking new holes in the ground right next to it. That's, you're gambling. So essentially you build nimble operations so that as the gas well declines, you can peel generators and boxes off and send them down to the next one that's producing, and you scale and expand outwardly, not upward. The upward vertical integrating with scaling this means you're taking control of your own power generation. You're having a technician work those generators, and now you're in control of that at the kilowatt rate, right? If you notice the way Sovereign Hybrid Compute is built, we own everything from the ground up. Like we have, partnerships where we own the minerals in the ground, where we're coming up through that. We have power generation. And then we even own the IP addresses, like contracts with ARN and things like that. So our own ISP literally now. So like full vertical integration like that with, that type of compute and operation, it yields long-term success because you're the master of your destiny at that point. With mining in general, vertical integration is oriented through, in-house power generation, learning how to deal with your own production in regards to the energy side of things, dealing with your own networking and ASIC repair in-house. Like these are all things that could be death by 1,000 cuts if you were to contract them out. And so figuring out how to handle all that and like constantly keep your hash rate up where it needs to be and everything, and staying on top of your sites like that, that will yield success versus people that think they can just, plug things in and then pay somebody else to deal with it later or that.
Yeah, and I'm going to throw on the stage here your website. You can go to sovereignhybridcompute.com, learn more about them. It's not just Bitcoin mining anymore. That's always kind of a backbone for you, but you are offering virtual private servers and VPNs so that for people that might be interested in this, getting off of Amazon web server or these other walled gardens or potential rug pulls, potential whatevers.
Cartel.
Yeah. You are offering, repository for data, access to online virtual private, anything you could run on a server, but it's extremely decentralized and robust. Tell us a bit about the compute aspect of what you're doing.
So right now, we're building servers for people to understand that basically convenience is usually just a leash with better branding. The way people should be interacting with their data, they should have the ability to own it, right? All of it, and take control of it, not have to have it live in some glass tower owned by people that friggin' hate them or want to use them and exploit them. And that's literally what's happening now. Your VPS should be a fortress, not some room rented inside of a friggin' panopticon. So that being the case, Sovereign Hybrid Compute is built on free and open source software. It's the Rails are Bitcoin native. It's 100%, KYC free compute for people who want to build and not have to worry about, having a target on their back. Look at the poor guys at Samurai. Our brothers there are suffering now because all they did was write code. And if they had a place to do that where maybe they, had some, how do you call it, plausible deniability, then, there's less fear around, building, right?
Yep.
So to me, it's important that, people have the ability to take control of their data and that they don't have to be afraid of it at the same time, And so that was one of the things that made Sovereign Hybrid Compute so important to me. I mean, I've been told no before when I wanted to go get a VPS because I was trying to build a pool. I got told no, many times through the financial system. And like when I started seeing it happen with compute, I my business partner, Demi, and our crew, we have a belief that, this is, not the way that people should be able to build without fear. And so putting this together, it gives that back, and allows people to do that. And that's one of the things that I believe makes it so important. Because right now, Bitcoin, it gives people the, innovation, the ability to be funded without, the banking cartels that could be threatened by that innovation from stopping it, because it can be funded directly, not peer-to-peer. And well, that's fuck you money. And so fuck you money deserves fuck you compute.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right.
that's what we're here to provide.
It's awesome. And I'll bring to the screen here, you wrote the Sovereign Compute Manifesto. This also pinged me in terms of,
Man, just give me chills. I
yeah,
haven't. I read that a couple of times since I wrote it, and it makes me feel some sort of way. Talking about it.
Sovereign hybrid compute is compute in the form of a sword, a fucking sword, not a leash, not a
That's right.
cage, not a velvet lined prison with a monthly invoice, a sword, a weapon for builders, a shield for sovereign individuals. It's great because you just hammer in the sovereign energy, sovereign communications, sovereign compute, sovereign storage, network access, digital shelter. All of this, when I bring up the concept of wartime ops, we're not just talking about like, okay, yeah, be sovereign and show some proof of work. We're talking like things that in America we feel insulated or cushioned from, like, oh, that could never happen here, or things are never that bad, or things go down for a
Right.
while, but maybe not that long. It always comes back. The
Well,
state
here's the
always
thing.
saves us.
Here's the thing. They bring everybody to the edge in regards to civil unrest, and then they make money on stock by getting everybody up in arms, and people go buy arms, and then things calm down and this and that, and that's by design. There needs to be people need to feel like that they're in control because they have these things, when really the control is coming in the form of a digital cage that's being built around them right now, and whether they want to admit it or not, that's real. And so, like, you got digital IDs, CBDCs, cars that are built in ways that can be shut down, independently of you by a remote server somewhere. Like if your guns aren't going to save you from that, like you're going to go shoot an algorithm. Good luck, like those are for one type of security. This is built for another type of security,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
They
what
can't.
people need to understand. Everything seems great until like they go somewhere and like their money doesn't work outside of this zip code because it's all digital now. Or their car, it reports back to a server somewhere and says that they want to go here, and then that server determines that they've utilized their carbon credit limit for the day or something.
Right.
Agenda 2030 is something that they still talk about, and that was presented once, and they're quietly trying to build around us in the background. And so it's not that, it's not happening, and it's not that everything's fine. It's just that there is a false facade, out there that everything is okay. And then all of a sudden it's not going to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that maybe I'm paranoid or this or that, but look at the other countries that have already done it. Like,
right.
we're just an experiment over here in regards to us still being allowed to have arms. So that being the case, if you don't think that they're going to push all this other crap and try to get away with it to see how far they can push the experiment while they have the arms, well, you're wrong. That's just not a reality. Like, they're going to tell people like, yeah, this is what it is eventually. And then either they're going to comply or they're not. And then the jackboots will come in, and it's like, oh, what are you going to do with your arms? You better be prepared to use them if you want to go outside your little, 15-minute city and everything else.
Yeah.
Or you better be able to build something that will protect you digitally amongst this type of, panopticon future. And, sovereign hybrid compute gives, options to that, to building, protection for yourself.
Right. Like a life stream to people that otherwise, as the water heats up and they're just sort of boiling the frogs steadily, and okay, so you arm up, you get prepared and all that, and they can kind of just isolate you, wall you in, starve you out, and then okay, you're all ready, but you still have to say use money or eat
and use money and right. So that's the thing. Like, they're going to hit you with nonviolent control points that you're going to look like the person who needs to be put down if you come with the arms.
Right.
And that's, again, by design, to make all these things seem like the norm because they're conveniences, that everybody's going to do them, that when you stand up for yourself in the face of these things that we're seeing as removed liberties, but others are taking as conveniences, you're going to be the bad guy.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and then, we've seen from the past that the state can turn you into a criminal, or they can free you with a stroke of a pen. So, like, you don't think they'll do that digitally as well outside of a court of law? So that's like,
yep,
you're wrong.
So we've just recently seen the digital euro get celebrated and released and explained, and I guess begin the next step of that program. In America,
yeah,
I think
so it'll be accepted in places over there where government is already subsidizing big box companies, and so they'll say, take this digital euro if you want to comply and use it, and this and that, we'll give it to you for free just so you can try it out. And they'll start using it at places like that are equal to Walmart in the US, because those are types of companies that get government money. So they'll say, you accept this from the citizens in exchange and this program and blah blah blah, and they'll usher it out like that, and the guise of helping people and giving them choices, and helping, that's literally, it's going to be them tying the noose around their own necks.
Yeah, and then the money becomes a kind of, well, it like CBDCs,
perverted leash,
and yeah, a mental welfare, kind of a Stockholm syndrome. You think it's all fine, it doesn't hurt enough, it works. So I can see in America coming then, and with some sort of economic crisis or problem, UBI, CBDC, digital ID, and then all the things, even inserted into this Clarity Act is effectively the Patriot Act, to continue that. And so it's a cage just sort of continually descending. And so what you're building out is that sovereign infrastructure for anything and everything you might want to do and get online. If you can still just get online, you can do what you need to online through sovereign hybrid compute.
I firmly believe that the next era is going to belong to the people who control energy, food, money, compute, and have community.
Yeah.
Long term, those are going to be the people that are happy. That comes with its own set of issues. That life isn't just hokey pokey happiness. You have a lot of personal responsibility that comes with that, and a lot of people in normie world aren't ready for that. They have the Stockholm syndrome, like they said in the movie The Matrix. They're so dependent on the system that they're not ready to be unplugged. They can't be. Yeah. And so, like, people like us, if we're going to be happy long term, it's going to be through those things, knowing people who are building like this, instead of just being the frog in the pot, and feeling helpless or like coddled. Because literally most of these people say they're okay with things until they run into a situation where they're denied a service. And then it's like, oh, why am I denied the service? What's wrong with me? I'm not a criminal or this or that. And it's like, they don't have to tell you. It doesn't matter. Like, you literally are viewed as a criminal until you prove yourself innocent in all of the financial world and everything else. Like, they put these rules into place for people, but then who's the people who are actually getting charged with these money laundering and the criminal activity? It's Deutsche Bank and Bank of America and all these other people.
Yeah.
And like, who are the people who are actually doing all this crime and stuff and then just paying for it? Yeah. Right? Prison is for people that can't afford the fines. Those guys, you know what I'm saying? So, like, you never see them go there. And so the double standard in the system, is there. And the people that are okay with the whole system, they're okay as long as their services work for them. But, like, at any point, if they want to question any of it or anything like that, that wall is going to come crashing down on them. And then they're going to be very upset that they don't know the life that we know and understand, that you have to have a certain level of personal responsibility for yourself if you want to be able to trek through this world and not be beholden to somebody else for all your moves.
Right. Yeah. And it's easy to make big examples of, the small little threats that pop up.
They do that on purpose so that people will stay in line.
Yeah, as compared to the big players that do it every day, all day, year after year, and just write it in as a cost of doing business as they pay hundreds
Bingo.
of millions in fines. So yeah, we're monitoring. We laundered Epstein's money. Diamond was Epstein's banker, and cartels and these and whatever, who knows what fraud, waste, and abuse and crime going on, but they just pay the fines and no one gets in trouble for it. They just pay. Whereas if you're small and you're doing not even
Anything.
something, yeah,
Forget to pay your
criminalized,
taxes one quarter. You know? Jeez.
right? Yeah. So it's wild to basically asymmetrically navigate
So,
the cage, I guess I'd call it the matrix. Now, with Starlink is one of the most amazing kind of technologies that gives like broadband to anywhere in the world now. So, on one hand, I like at face value, I like what Elon's doing. I like things that he says. He does, and with all the other things he's doing, there is Starlink where it's like, holy cow, this is convenient and amazing and gets you internet access. And then in the back of my mind, that little bit of me says, okay, maybe Elon's good, but Starlink or the Space Force or whoever gets involved with all of that, where does that head as far as trust goes?
well,
At
that's the
some point,
thing. Elon is one guy, and he also has a board, right? So all of those entities have boards of directors and everything else that he's just one voice on. And so, like, just like Jack in the Twitter files, right? Feds came knocking, they handed over whatever they wanted,
yeah,
right? He has, all the right to say that he's not approving of any of this or any of that and that he wouldn't do this. But, when push comes to shove, what will their board do? Will they turn over, anything and everything? And just if they say that you got to restrict access in these areas because of this or that or throttle it, will they do that? I mean, who knows? That
right,
remains to be seen, like those pressures haven't been applied yet. And so I'm on the fence about the guy, really. I mean, all
right,
his success in business works because there's been massive amounts of government subsidy to his stock, and everything else because of, type of things that he's building aligns with the green agenda. And
right,
so, I mean, if those things go away and they are struggling and they can find ways to stay afloat by being compliant, do I think that that's a route that they could take? Sure, I do. We've seen other corporations that claim to want to protect people's freedom and First Amendment rights and everything do this already. So I mean,
right.
I don't fanboy for anybody really because of that. It's just like,
I know. I I'll take what's great and I love it, and then I always have to be careful about just worshiping Elon or they want to continue to do business in America. They're building all, and I love the fact that it's industry in America. Where it's coming and made in America,
mhm.
and he says the right things, and I believe most of what he says he believes. But they're building out all this spaceport and regulatory infrastructure in America. What's to say, like, it's like you want to keep doing business in America? Well, you got to play by those rules. Are they prepped to what? Have a spaceport in a free jurisdiction somewhere somehow like this year? So they're, they've got to play by the game. So I know I love it. It's amazing. I also I worry like down the road someday, maybe it's
Mhm.
somebody else. It's not Elon anymore, but something changes.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's important to have options that you can use to protect yourself.
Now
Services
you're
that allow you to operate and protect your privacy.
Yeah. Now, on a personal note, your own background and growing up, your values go through and through from an early age, I might presume. You have an interesting story where even back in high school, you emancipated yourself very deliberately. you can tell this story as you like, but you got yourself out of high school and signed up for other education on your own terms, graduated early, have been fairly self-taught and autodidactic, even as you learn on the job, and have worked in like, like dry goods storage and stuff for companies. But you have learned and stacked that skill set steadily. What makes you different? What were you like in high school? What's that story like?
Well, I very distinctly, and still to this day, I've always hated being told no, or that I couldn't do something, or that I had to slow down or wait. And that just never really meshed well with me. The education system, the way it pretty much still is, didn't work well for me in regards to how I learn things best also. And so I knew right away that I didn't want to be in a classroom setting, for 12, 16, 18 years or more.
Waiting your turn. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like I don't feel like at all that I dropped out of education or anything. I feel more like I kind of dropped out of permission-based learning.
Yeah.
And then went and excelled at other types of learning, Fucking school just wants obedience, man. And well, life only rewards proof of work. So
Yeah.
if you understand that, and I didn't just understand it, like I could feel it, like I could feel it in regards to when I would do independent sports activities and things like that when I was younger. It's like the way I felt about myself after and what I was doing versus when I was in a friggin' classroom. It was night and day. And so I just, yeah, that was it. I wasn't going to stick around for that. Keep feeling the way I was feeling, because I felt stifled and like I felt stupid, because I'm just like, this stuff is elementary and we're just repeating it. So what is the point,
Yeah. And you can excel as far as like the rest of the class is all not excelling, perhaps. And I've got kids in school, and there's this conformist feeling you have where, you got a really smart kid and they're working ahead, and they say, the teacher's like, okay, well, just wait and find someone else to do. We're not getting to the next lesson until next week. And you got a kid who's bored in school or is acting out, and they're just freaking bored. And it's like, can he just go learn whatever?
That's the other thing that I've noticed about like you asked what kind of makes me a little different. Well, I'm not gonna say it's just me, but like the men I respect in life and appreciate, along with how I operate, is like this. We see what needs to be done and we go and do it. We don't wait to be told by anybody. And it's like that in education too, like the ones who are going to excel and be successful, they're not the ones waiting for the bell to tell them to move. They never did. They just start on a path, they get presented, and it's either intriguing or it's not, and then they move. They don't wait to be told. They come to a stop point or something that's beyond them, and either they are curious enough to try different things and learn more to figure it out and go forward and educate themselves further to excel along that path, or it's not curious enough for them, it doesn't create enough interest in them, and then they go to something else. A lot of times I find that today people have to deal with analysis paralysis. There's information overload and they don't know what to do with themselves. But if you have purpose and you know what you're about, it's easy to pick a lane, right?
Yeah.
So, and then in doing that, those the people that have to be told what to do, well, it also usually comes with their lane. They're usually told what lane to be in also. They're not picking one and then going. So yeah, I'd say that's difference. The difference is there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of I've known throughout my different professions and places I worked, but there's like really, really super smart people, but there's an intellectual kind of security to have in like you said, analysis paralysis, the planning and process and thinking, and then it's like it's actually hard to go and do it, or they
Apply.
would like someone else to actually go do it. We like to plan and think and talk about it. Going and doing it is a shifting of gears, and uh, it's a skill, another whole skill set to acquire. You can be a genius, but you don't know how to do stuff. So the
Yeah.
implementation is important, and
Well,
that's why what's
that's a perfect example. Is Albert Einstein developed the nuclear bomb, but he didn't build it. It was a team of
right.
guys who actually assembled the damn thing and made it
Mm,
do what it does. He just had, the design and the theory and the math.
yeah.
That's where I step in. Take the math and the theory and all that and verify it, and then I go put it in the field.
Some people are out there turning the wrenches and building the stuff and getting sweaty and dusty. And you've made room to get to conferences. You were at Bit Block Boom. You've been to Plan B. You've presented there. Talked about the work you do, how you do it, why you do it. I saw you in Vegas. What's your take on the variety of conferences? And are there ones you've liked better, and why? And what do you think of Vegas?
I thought Vegas was great.
Yeah,
I steered clear of any, sequential nonsense, and I just hung out with base plebs, the ones I
yeah.
could meet, people I could find. So I had a great time. And then I also appreciate other conferences that are a little smaller too, like Tab Conference, because it's more developer focused
Mm.
and it, brings more of the technical vibe and I like to, the learning opportunities that are there. And then a lot of those guys are extremely based and it's fun to work with them and
Where
get
was
to
that
meet
one at?
them. It's in Atlanta in October, usually Tab
Okay.
Conference.
Okay.
Yeah. And Mike Tidwell, he does that. He's one of the founders of that
Oh,
conference.
cool.
Yeah, he does a great job with that. And then I like BitBlock Boom. It's always a great signal there. The guys are top notch in regards to who Gary can get to come and talk and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the ones that I enjoy the most. As I have the most friends that hang out there, and that's why. Uh, it's also one of the longest running, so it's usually a good time.
Cool.
It's like a family reunion.
Yeah, I haven't been to that one yet, and I almost went this year. I want to get to that one. I've heard, okay, it's smaller but very clear signal. I
Mm.
got to Prague, and Prague also, I mean, it's actually growing and getting big.
I was
But
supposed to go to that, but my daughter's birthday is in June, and I have
yeah,
priorities, so I can't just be doing that. So next year, though, I'm thinking that I might go for like the first couple days and then fly out, in the middle of it, just so I can go show my face.
they moved it to May next year. It's going to be
Mm.
in May, so it's a little
I wonder
earlier.
if that's because I kept telling them no.
Yeah. We got to have you. What can we do? Yeah, well, it can't be in June. My
Yeah, that's what I told them. I was like, I don't know, man. I can't do June. So
Yeah, they'll let you be a
priorities.
speaker, I bet.
No, they asked me to a few
Yeah.
times. I had to tell
Okay.
them no because it was the.
Uh, yeah, my daughter's birthday is in mid-June as well, and I basically, soon as Prague was over, I had to fly back the last day of the conference and get
Yeah.
home because my daughter was turning 5. Um,
Hmm.
when it comes to physical security, do you have any crazy stories in terms of, I mean, you've mentioned there's wildlife of all kinds, coyotes that run on 4 legs and coyotes that might run on 2 and all kinds of crazy stuff. Have you ever
Well,
had,
that's real.
yeah, weird run-ins with wildlife, human or otherwise?
Yes. I had a skunk in one of my boxes a few months back.
Oh,
That had everybody freaked out, but we got it out. And then in North Dakota, I've run into rattlesnakes, eastern diamondbacks, pit vipers, cottonmouths, and that's not fun.
Yeah.
Gotta get, gotta get your nerve out for that. Because if you don't take the heads, they'll show back up. They're very territorial. So that I've run into hogs on sites before. That's why it's imperative that you stay armed with sidearm.
Right.
Like you're out in some of these places, and you got fences and shit. You might get hog in your fence, and then man, that thing now it's a chicken match.
It's got to be
So,
hog tight. Yeah.
yeah,
When you think, oh, what, a wild pig, is that dangerous? Well, a big boar will charge you,
yeah,
right?
300 pounds with tusk will tear you apart.
Yeah. So
And
you're always head on a swivel, paying attention, being armed.
yeah, especially at night too, and when it's colder out, because the rattlesnakes they like to get up near the heat trace and stuff. So you don't know when there might be one just hanging out right underneath the pipe. Can't even see it.
Right. It's warm out. They're out in the dark, laying on a rocker on the ground.
And yeah, they curl up under there in the winter too. So under the heat trace, yeah, because the heat trace keeps the gas line from freezing. They like to hang out there. And then about 7 years ago, I had a data center break in, and they had just gotten out of there, literally. They were lucky as it showed up on site with firearms and stuff in tow, and there was I believe loose lips on that one, sunk that ship, because the way they hit that site, they knocked out cameras and gens for comms and everything first, so that couldn't see it happening when it happened. And so yeah, you always have to be prepared when it comes to security and
right
the site and what you're going to walk into out there.
Well, someone willing to do that, when you're not there, say you come across some, what are they willing to do to get away or win?
Well,
So you never
that's
know.
the thing. I have seen guys. I've seen video of guys that I know delivering A6 in trucks, and then two pickup trucks pull up, one in front, one behind. The one guy jump out with guns. His passenger will just tell the driver to get out. They'll take the whole truck, drive the whole truck off, and leave the guy on the side of the road.
Wow.
So there's a lot of different things that I've seen that can happen. So you just got to be cognizant of that. Yeah.
Yeah. Zooming out, we talked about some things could be rolling towards us from the state and the cage, if you will. When there's a reference to the fourth turning, and I hear different theories on this, not that it's a singular just thing. It's kind of a broader force of nature trend, perhaps. But do you think it's coming still? Are we in the middle of it? Have we perhaps seen it from COVID and we're just feeling the awkward climb outwards? Or
so it's based on if you look into it enough, you see that it's really just comes back to the cycle of hard men create good times, good times create weak men create hard times, right? And those are the turnings. Okay,
right.
And like we're living in, I would say, the end of the beginning maybe of those we're starting to see all those hard times over the last couple of decades. I'd say, well, it started in 1971, right, when the infinite bailout ability came into play. The money's not pegged to gold anymore. Nothing. There's zero reserve requirements. Like, we're not going to let people fail anymore. That's where hard times start to be created. We've seen that for a couple decades now, right? Or maybe more. And so that being a thing, and it being, I believe, generational like that, it'll take another generation to get through that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we may be in the beginning of the middle, so to speak, of the fourth turning now, right? The end, like you'll see total collapse in the end from, if you see history in each other countries where, fiat has reigned for its own, multiple hundreds of years. it lives that cycle, right? And so we are in the end like of that fiat cycle, and we're experiencing the systemic breakdown of those good times right now in real time, with the endless money printing, the forever bailouts and everything, and because of the hardship that that's creating, right, through the byproduct of inflation. And so it has to reach a zenith, and we have to go to something better before I could truly say that we've reached a point where it could be called the middle and start working towards an end and something better,
Right.
And
like
so,
we can
I
see
don't
something better that
see
we're
that yet.
approaching. Yeah.
Right. It's like you can hear whispers of it being built by people out there, but until we see it at scale and people wake up, it won't be implemented, a different way or, of living or other. It'll be the systemic reliance on the system until people are willing to see it for what it's worth and the hard
Yeah.
times that it's creating. Right.
Yeah. Some people I talk to that are working on solutions and towards solutions, and they can see how in ways you can free yourself and do the things, they can often feel like, oh, we're coming out of it. But I think when you actually talk to people at large, or you still get the late stage empire vibes continually in fiat clown world, it's like, yeah, it's sort of like the future is here. It's just not evenly distributed. And it is so in many ways, it's so not distributed that just that inertia of change will take, like you said, a generation where, there are answers here in hand. Dear pleb, if you like to take responsibility and work that direction, you can do it. But very broadly, people are just going to walk or herd where they're told or when it's allowed or mainstream. And then it's just so slow. Then you're like, oh my gosh, it's not near the end. It's like beginning, or we're just in the middle of it.
This is what I try to tell people, like that. I'm not trying to be a doomer or a gloomer or paranoid. I just know from my life experience that the fiat meat grinder has the ability to slow down to almost a halt and perpetuate its pain, and so it's going to take a massive awakening for people to want to just jump ship from fiat and and take on a new system.
Yeah.
And well, maybe Bitcoin isn't necessarily in a place where it can support transactionally an entire global shift, but I mean, it still works well as a beacon of sanity in regards to how a system can operate and function without third-party intermediaries and be money.
Yeah.
And as the rails are built on that, and adoption occurs, it'll be used again still like a savings tech as it is now. People like us will try to use it as money as it was intended to be, and what I feel like it is. And it's just time, like people have to be burned right before they're willing to learn and that there's a better way. So and in that there's the you have to face the potential that this propaganda machine, which comes with the fiat meat grinder, is going to try to slow that down, right, so it can maintain its dominance.
Yeah.
Because like they're forcing people to use the dollar under the threat of violence.
Yeah.
So but people don't feel that at the register, they only see it in the news when it's like, these countries over in the East are refusing to settle oil in dollars, and now they're getting invaded,
Yeah.
But
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't happen people don't feel that at the register, they feel inflation. They feel a different kind of violence, right? And then they get their programs and subsidies kicked off to them, and they're like, oh, well, this is supposed to be like this because we're told that like it's healthy for the economy and everything else. And like they live too close to the money printer here in the States. Like there's other countries where people have massively embraced Bitcoin and they want a value for value system. but unfortunately, most of their currencies are also based on the dollar. And there hasn't been a global systemic shift away from that yet. And
yeah,
it's going to be a lot of pain in the United States when that happens too, because all that money is going to come home, and it's not going to be pretty when it does.
yeah.
So,
Just with our latest war, I guess. I mean, it's just the next iteration of what's been going on for a long time. But Hormuz being locked up, and some of those downstream effects don't hit for months, and that just started. So even if, say, it just got fixed, we're still going to feel downstream stuff for that from that for a while. And you know what? It's not going to get fixed anytime soon or ever. Where the market meets the molecule for most your average normie folks is probably at the gas pump, where they're just looking at, oh, $5, $6, whatever gas. But what the story behind that and how it got to the pump is a whole bunch of things. And even all that is within,
there's
not
massive
a
controls
sovereign.
there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Massive controls there.
Yeah.
There's literally oil and gas cartels that fix prices and everything else and determine like what this is going to be.
Yeah.
And so they're, they build their own market, so to speak, with price.
Exactly. Yeah. People are familiar with OPEC, but I mean, these big companies are smart, know what they're doing. They know the market, they know the sources, and they're playing a long game too. So,
they have to agree to produce X amount of oil so they don't tank the market.
I had heard
things like that.
Yeah, nations have depleted like all over the world have been tapping into their strategic petroleum reserves and burning those out. Well, I mean, Biden did a whole bunch of it, and then we were kind of beginning to add some back, but those are there for a reason, and countries to stay afloat. And even as as we approach another winter in a few months or so, if those reserves are dried up and there's still problems, it's another downward spiral in terms of energy and problems with energy.
Well, right now we're reliant on exogenous oil imports. We're not using too much of our own, and that makes it a little more expensive for us.
Yeah.
But then, you also think, you hear a lot of different things. People blame war and other things for high gas prices, but then do they also take into account that historically we've never seen prices go back down to what they were previously, and that also what we see at the same time is more continuous money printing? So there has to be a correlation there too.
Right.
Can't just be that gas prices are high because of war,
Yeah.
We see that, when there is a war, we see that prices change because of demand, right? But then also at the same time, you got to think, were they not just going to go up anyways due to the systemic inflation we're already seeing? It's like the US dollar is used in the settlement of this oil. And so if they're printing more of this US dollar, by proxy, you would think that that's going to correlate to more of them dollars being required to buy the same amount of oil.
Yeah. The broken money effect, of course, as well.
Right. It touches everything. And so I feel like sometimes the wars are just a distraction to, make excuses for why prices are increasing, but really it all goes back to money,
Yeah, you've got a good emergency or reason, and so that's why things are more expensive.
Right, you never waste a good crisis, right?
Yeah, sure. Don't let no good crisis go to waste, and then print for reasons for other. It's not us just wanting to continue floating the empire; it's for reasons. Now, as you've traveled the country, and I want to be respectful of your time. If you've got time, that's cool, but we're approaching an hour. As you've traveled the country and seen a lot of places and sites, let's just imagine that there is a gradually then suddenly moment, or things do start to get worse and worse and bad. Where in the country, what part of the country, what community, what do you like? What feels good? I think geography has a lot to play when people think about their plan B. Sometimes that's out of the country, but I love America. I'd like to stay in America. What do where's a good place that you've liked, or to the extent you want to disclose?
Well, and I'll go in regards to talking about this. I will just talk about like what makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So everybody has their own qualms with, the ambient temperatures and atmosphere. Some people like snow, some people like, hot environments, and so some people do better, someplace like the Florida out in the Everglades. Some people might do better up in North Dakota on the Badlands, So, ultimately where you're going to be comfortable living, one, in regards to ambient environment, and temperature and everything. Because there's resources in all types of different environments, right?
Mm-hmm.
The best place to be though is somewhere with water, energy, food, and defensible space. Like period.
Right.
If you're gonna be a person that wants to just stay or bug out to a place and then establish there, right, and stay there, and also, believe it or not, neighbors, like. It's like your first instinct is to like want to build something away alone, right? But at the same time, neighbors are a valuable resource. Like
Mm-hmm.
guys that know how to use tools that you don't know how to use or haven't had to come in contact with yet, or have run into things that maybe you haven't before, and they can help you. Um, the right neighbors is important, mind you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another resource. Also, it can help with sanity too. Like some people
Mm-hmm.
are not built to be alone
Yeah.
indefinitely, and so this is something that might want to be considered.
Yeah.
But
So not
like,
prescriptive. It's
because
a big country, but thinking of this stuff from kind of a first principles approach, basically.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the whole bug out fantasy and roll solo and just live out of a you know Amazon survival kit or something is pretty friggin' cute until you realize that land, water, diesel, and relationships are your only key to long-term survival. Because
Mm-hmm.
like are you gonna be a nomad forever? Like, because that's what you're gonna have to do if you don't, consider all of these things, right?
Right.
So, I would trust places where like remote areas close to small towns, where men still fix things and grow things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not remote areas outside of metropolitan areas, but like remote outside of a small rural community, right?
Yeah.
So like that you have people that don't panic when the fucking power goes out because they know like what to do, right? Like even grandma knows how to turn the generator on the farm. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like those are the type of people you want near you in the bug out world, like when the shit
Yeah.
hits fan.
Not
So
freaking out and like Walmart's
not knowing what to
closed
do.
and we're out of toilet paper. Yeah.
Yeah, no panic, right? So those are
Yep.
the types of places that I recommend people.
Awesome. Yeah.
And
I
try to
live
learn your own skills before you get there so you're not just an annoying suck on the others.
right. Being your own problem. Yeah. I live in Oregon,
Precisely.
and we're in a beautiful area and we have a lot of
Mm-hmm.
good things here. And I also think it can be an area, at least where I'm at, where if the shit hit the fan, the community is a mixed bag. It could be a problem, but so then we look at places like, okay,
Oregon is kind of woke.
yeah. So then the whole Western bloc of communist states is kind of
Funny.
its own thing. So that's a consideration. So anyway, we're keeping our eyes open and thinking about options, but it's kind of a Goldilocks effect where like not too big, not too small, but just right. You want a little good, responsible community, not stuck in a city, but you don't have to be Mr. Sovereign zombie hunter out in the woods somewhere. So,
Well, I'll tell you, rolling solo and everything means you got to do everything solo. So, like that comes with its own set of hardships. I mean, me building these operations, doing power generation, I can tell you that like how difficult it is to survive in a bug out situation where you have to make your own power, you have to truck your own water around, you got to literally create these resources for yourself in an environment that other people, you're in that environment because other people shouldn't want to go there, right? Which means it's already going to be hard enough to live there. So
Yeah.
just things to keep in mind, right?
Yeah. And now before we go, I want to direct people to how to find you here. So let me bring to stage.
That's perfect timing. I'm getting ready to have to hit the bathroom.
Yeah,
and go back out in the
I'm going
field.
to cut you loose here. So on X, you can find HODLTarantula here at HODLTarantula. Great feed, great man on the street videos, his manifesto. You can find Sovereign Hybrid Compute. I think it's a selective follow here, but you've got Sovereign Hybrid Compute at SH Compute on X. And then the website, sovereignhybridcompute.com. You can contact them here. They got a form. If you're an energy provider, you've got some resources that, or you want consultation on mining and compute and building up and scaling up and down, being flexible. HODLTarantula is your man. He knows how to do it. And you can also reach out to him for the VPS services and read all about that at sovereignhybridcompute.com. Is there anything that I have not touched upon here that you wanted to maybe mention that I didn't bring up?
Oh, you've been very thorough, actually.
Good.
Yeah. Cool. You managed to touch on all the things that that I basically wake up for every day.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. I love that you share it. It takes that extra bit of time and energy to share what you do. Are there many other people that you know of out there doing like what you do? You don't see it much.
There's guys out there putting on independently, building out operations, and I applaud them for stepping into the field and putting their best foot forward, because definitely not easy. There's a Telegram channel for oil and gas Bitcoin guys that started out almost a decade ago, and there was just a couple hundred guys in there, and now it's over 15,000 strong.
Wow.
And so these are guys all across the world that are trying to build off-grid mining operations and or learn how to do it independently. So awesome. I think the only reason I'm able to share with everybody the way I do is because I have an abundance of energy, and so blessed with that, I exploit it the best I can by sharing the mission with others.
That's awesome. I love that you do it. You've got a great team, a great company, a great philosophy. Reach out to HT if you're interested in any of the services he has to offer. HT, I'm just really appreciative that we made this work. You fit it in a busy day after day. We finally made it happen. Thank you so much for joining me today, man.
You're welcome. It was my pleasure. I appreciate you, giving me your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Till next time, everybody. Bye.